new names on the call? I do not. I don't know if anybody else does.
Moritz is on the call. I don't recognize that name.
Yeah. Hi.
Hey, Moritz. So would you mind giving us a little bit of background about sort of who you are and what you're up to, or what you're interested in OpenWhisk, or why you're interested in OpenWhisk?
Yeah, sure. So I started an internship at Adobe like 3 weeks ago. And yeah, so I will be working on some parts of OpenWhisk, especially trying to run some. I mean, I will use OpenWhisk more as a user, let's say, than as a developer.
Sorry, I'm late.
No problem.
I have a serious discussion about this enterprise serverless stuff.
I told you Carlos never lets us down with the headwear.
Great. Moritz, well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else new on the call? Okay, great, we'll continue on. So I've got the current agenda is Vincent to speak about the release process, Tyson to talk about some of the Mesos work that we're continuing, specifically, I think more in HA, Dave to talk about Travis to Slack integration, Pretty talking about multiple project management with Whisk Deploy, and James to discuss install documentation. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I guess there's an issue number somewhere for that. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add to the agenda? And then obviously we'll talk about notable changes, PRs, or anything else there as well.
I would request if Tyson is available. I don't see Tyson. Or maybe Dan, on somebody from Adobe to just a few words on the Adobe announcements, Adobe I/O that I saw last night, and I was very excited. So wanted to know anything that you want to share. You guys are about to run in production, beta, anything around running this in production that could benefit IBM, it could benefit Red Hat. I know Red Hat is also soon to be ready.
Yeah, I can cover that.
Cool.
Oh, I think there's some in the chat. Oops. On that. Okay, I guess this is that issue number. James, that's that issue number. Okay. So does anybody have any notable changes I saw kicking around, at least on the DL? We don't have Chetan here, so maybe this doesn't really work. This isn't a really good time. Is the attachment store SPI that was added? I don't know if we want to try and talk about that or not.
Chetan joined.
Oh, he did? Okay. I don't know if that raises this level or we feel like we've gotten everything sorted out on the DL. I just know I saw a lot of traffic about it, which is why I flung it on here more than actually having any knowledge about what was happening.
Yeah, I think we can discuss this in the next call once
Okay.
we have something concrete in terms of PR, and then we can discuss.
And this is for the code attachments. Where we are with MongoDB with the SPI for DB from Couch to Mongo, is that?
So that one is completed, but now first need to get the attachment part done so that I can fold it back. So
okay.
There's a base implementation done, which works, but we need to fix the attachment restore design so that
now I see 2 and 2 together. Cool.
Yeah.
I actually did not pull up all the PRs like I did last week from any of the repos. So if anybody has anything else that they would like to bring up or talk about, a PR that they're either waiting on reviews for to surface to folks as a gentle nudge, or something where we feel like we haven't resolved we haven't resolved it on the list or in the PR. Now's a real good time.
I think there was a big, maybe not big, but important Kubernetes PR from Dave. I don't know where that stands. If he's waiting for somebody to review or he's still working on it. I just want to bring it up if he's waiting for reviewers, and that doesn't stay on. It keeps rebasing forever and eternity. Everybody loves that, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Kubernetes repository doesn't move very fast. Repacing it isn't that hard. Yeah, I think it's basically ready. Roderick's just we're closing in the last few comments. I put some comments into the code. I think cover the last things.
Okay. But I see people were asking in Slack about it, and we send them to the PR, but that's kind of a little bit lame, right?
Roderick said he just merged it, so we're good.
See how we nudge people, like nudge, bum. See? Okay, yeah, that's good. I thought it was in a good direction, so I had to level set.
Cool.
Um,
All right, great. Well, if there's no other interesting, notable changes or anything that anybody needs to talk about, we can move on because we actually do have a good list of things this week. These are in no particular order at all, so I'll just go. I think these are probably in the reverse order. They came into my email or some nonsense like that. So Vincent, did I see you on?
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Okay. Do you want to walk through where you're at with the release tool?
Sure.
Thanks.
Hey. Okay. Can I share my screen? Yes. Okay, I can do it.
Great.
All right. Okay, here is what we have now. During the past 1 week or two, we have implemented something new. Let me call it just some minor improvement for this OpenWhisk release tool. First, let's go along the list, and the first one should be add a configuration options to implement so that we can determine whether the Travis build in the master branch will push the artifacts or not. Because when we are trying to improve, we keep on improving this project, we can add new script, add new implements. Sometimes it's not necessary to push artifacts to the staging URL every time, which is currently we do. After adding this guy, I add a key named publish stage. When it is set to false, then we disable the upload of the artifacts. When we set it back to true, it will push the artifacts. But how does we decide when to set it true or false? For example, if we're trying to publish a new release and we pick up some new hash values for each project, this will actually decide we'll definitely push some new artifacts into the staging URL. So when we have some hash value like this, changing in the coming commits or PRs, then we can flick this guy publish stage to true in order to push the artifacts. And other times we can just leave it false. So this is just a new configuration options I add in this JSON file. That's the first change we have already accomplished in OpenWhisk release. The second guy is this guy. We implement a new mechanism for versioning. How does versioning work? Well, we'll try to make it more compliant with the semantic 2.0. So we try to, yeah, here's what we can define. Under the brackets for versioning, we have a key called version and another key called pre-release version. Well, the version key actually determines the major release, like we can call it either 0.1, 0.0, or 1.0.0 as a major release. And we can add incubator or any other word in the end. And then the pre-release version actually can define kind of a milestone release or kind of RC release before we claim a major release. So the version and the pre-release version will concatenate with a hyphen in between, so that our folder name will be version hyphen pre-release version.
Yeah, we don't. So we don't need a code review, Vincent. Just describe the features. So.
Yeah, that's the features. Okay.
So
And
I'll chime in addition. So in addition, you'll see Daisy working on the notice files this week. So she's going to go through all the dependencies, Maven, Go, whatever dependency files we use for binaries, and start constructing notice files for each of the repos. So you'll see issues open in each of the repos, and we'll track them in a tracking issue that's already open in the release repo. And also, we've left the training wheels on for a long time in terms of the scan code. I plan to next week take the training wheels off and basically restrict us to just Apache licenses. We still supported the IBM license, even though they should have been purged. And something came up with the CLI last week. I noticed it wasn't purged. Somebody asked to put an old header in. So I'm kicking the training wheels off, and I'll make sure nothing gets broken in the process. So I think that after the notice files are done and they're reviewed on the dev list, I think that we're set to actually work towards our first release with the incubator PMC.
Yeah, that's definitely the good news. Yeah, well, I think that's the work left. Our team should be working on that in terms of a notice file and the license header, I think, for every repo of OpenWhisk projects. Okay, the last one is, I try to move a little further. Also made it happen to release some binaries for OpenWhisk CLI and with the deploy, because these two guys are written in a Go language, so we can publish the executable files, packaged in a zip or TGZ. We made it happen as well. And one more configuration is that do it on a repo-to-repo basis. So we just add a binary key under each repo. We set to yes, then we're going to publish it. So that's the three major items we have accomplished in terms of the contribution to OpenWhisk release. And then I think from next week, we will work on the notice files for the repo and the license headers, as Matt said. So after that, we are ready. Yeah, I think we're ready on the way to release in our Apache as incubator project. Okay, that's all from me.
Great, thank you. If you can just stop sharing, I can just actually throw it
Absolutely.
along. So Tyson, you're actually up next. If you want to give a quick rundown of some of the Adobe announcements that are at our marketing summit this week around Adobe I/O and runtime, and then I think you wanted to speak more deeply about some of the Mesos work that you're doing, and probably in support of, I think you already opened a PR about the HA invoker. Right?
Yeah, I think let me just paste a tweet in the chat pod here for people to jump into, and I can share my screen and go through quickly the main gist of what we've talked about at Summit. So for those that don't know, Adobe Summit is the big conference that Adobe has every year to kind of launch products and gather interest for Adobe's enterprise offerings. So their marketing cloud primarily. And so the big announcements from our team, which is Adobe I/O, were around. If you click through the tweet, there's a blog post here, and basically it's a good summary of everything that was kind of talked about at Summit. And there's kind of three big categories. One is, sorry, let me go through this in order. One of them is new APIs. So Adobe I/O is kind of an umbrella product for a set of developer-focused services from Adobe. So the original offering from Adobe I/O has been APIs for all of Adobe services. So we launched a lot of new APIs, and then the other big thing, or one other big thing, was announcing Adobe I/O events, which is our event generation system for Adobe Cloud Services. So the kind of typical workflow is using some of these services like either Adobe Experience Manager, Analytics Triggers, or Creative Cloud Assets. Once data is in motion within the service, you can hook into events that are trigger either webhooks or runtime actions. So when a file changes in your Creative Cloud Assets, then you can react to it. And then the big thing for us was Adobe I/O Runtime Announcement, which is mostly used in conjunction with the I/O events system, but there's actually quite a few additional use cases that we're tracking to support as well. So this is our OpenWhisk productized offering, and so there's a video here. I think some folks have seen it, but if you go through the blog post, that covers pretty much everything about Adobe I/O at Summit. If nobody has any questions on that, I'll jump over to the Mesos stuff. There was a few things I wanted to talk about. One of them was this proposal that I emailed about on the dev list, and really the work that I've been looking at recently has been moving beyond just getting the Mesos Container Factory operational, but getting our Mesos and DCOS deployments suitable for a production deployment, meaning like we need to support HA controller, and we need to support a notion of a HA invoker. And with Mesos, it's a little bit complicated for having a container factory, because we need to operate that container factory as a singleton, and so that's kind of the impetus for this proposal here. So I won't go through all of the details unless anybody has any specific questions, and we can keep the conversation on the dev list. But I just wanted to bring up a little bit of the background there. The other aspects that we're working on for having an HA deployment is on the controller, and the two specific pieces that are needed there are dealing with the controller IDs, and I think a solution for that is the same as what's happening in the invokers, where if we add a Zookeeper integration with name flags, so that the ID is dynamically assigned based on a name that can be consistent, we can more easily have a controller that has multiple instances where they get assigned the IDs properly. So that'll be something I need to work on next. And then the other thing to support the controllers is the clustering seed nodes discovery. I started a PR a while back for having the seed nodes be delivered to OpenWhisk as an SPI, where Mesos could have a specific implementation for determining seed node IP addresses instead of having a statically defined set of IPs as the seed nodes. So I'll be revisiting that PR soon. And then the other thing I wanted to mention about Mesos deployment is that we're working on, I know there's been a little bit of discussion on how to deploy on DCOS, and Dewey has a PR out for a DCOS universe to enable that. One of the reasons that that's been tricky for us is that there's been some problems with DCOS where we need to take out some of the configuration that's Adobe specific and make it parameterized in the universe. But we've run into some problems in the DCOS universe system for some of the specific parameters. So we're working with the Mesosphere people to track bugs in DCOS and the universe handling to try and resolve that so that we can have the goal being that we have a universe that we deploy internally inside Adobe, and that same universe can be an open source universe. And for the Adobe deployments, we just override the configuration with our internal details. And right now, that hasn't been possible for a few of the specific configuration options that we need. And we don't want to kind of leak out those Adobe specific configurations as part of the default universe. So we're working through some changes to figure out how to make that happen so that we can have a universe that's both usable by Adobe as well as usable in the open source world.
Yeah, that's +1 on that. We have the same philosophy for the IBM current deployment that we do in Ansible. We just use the same roles and the same Ansible, same configuration variables. We just override the IBM specifics, like the limits and handful of override, but it's the same process. It works outside, it works inside.
Yeah, I think if, it's possible that we can, copy and tweak the universe and ship it off to be, exist in the open source community. But I know, and I think we all know that as soon as we do that, it's going to be rot and
fail. Yep.
So we're trying to avoid that.
Yeah, and having, I guess it's possible to do CI/CD with Mesos in Travis, kind of a deployment and a test, not a test, but kind of the same thing we do with Cube and Ansible. Just something to think about.
Yeah, anything's possible. I think for now I've been trying to keep the tests limited to the Mesos client that we're using. So we test the messaging to the client being operational. And I think it's a good goal to have a full-blown deployment. I think, there's going to be some tricks to getting that working properly, but I think the starting point is getting the DCOS universe into the public hands, and then going from there, we should be able to have something. I don't know when that timing might be, but that would be the order of things that I think needs to happen.
Okay.
And that's it.
Great. Thanks very much, Tyson. So moving along, up next would be Dave P. to talk about Travis to Slack integration.
Okay. So let me take the screen. Okay. All right, so this is should be hopefully a pretty quick talk. I had some fun playing with OpenWhisk last week, and I wanted to show people what it did. So you should be seeing my my Slack conversations with WhiskBot, where it's telling you about the results of various PRs I've submitted, many which succeeded, some of which failed. And so this is running on the OpenWhisk team Slack. If you want to get things like this, there's a Slack command that's been added. So you can say you want to subscribe to Travis, put in your name. I'm going to put in my test name here, Jane Doe. It should then execute the command, and now I'm subscribed. And so if I go off and actually, we don't want to wait for a real PR because Travis takes too long. But if I run a little test thing, comes in, and if it works, within a couple seconds, I should get a notification. There it is. There's my test build that came in. And so that just pops in a Slack message for me. And so that's, tell you a little bit more about what's going on here. So this is all based on a GitHub Travis to Slack app that Roderick and Philippe built, and I've been building on top of. It's out on GitHub. So you can, we have a couple open feature requests people can come in and help us with. So the back end for both the Slack command and all the notification stuff is running on top of OpenWhisk, deployed in IBM Cloud Functions. And sort of drilling. So Roderick's got a nice couple blog posts talking about this. There's some documentation here about what's going on. You can look at the code. The main things use Composer. So this is the sort of the JavaScript code for the ad subscription. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go in, look to see if there's already a user subscribed in the database with that. If it fails, try to deal with what happens. So you can look at the code that way. You can also look at it in shell. So this is a visualization using the IBM Cloud Shell for the same piece of code. And so the normal flow is you come in here, you bind some variables, you go and look in the database, you try to write a new subscription. If it succeeds, great. Then you say your message is a success, and you fall down here, you post it to Slack, and you're done. If the write fails, you look up to see if someone else has already subscribed, send a message saying that they can't do it, or there could be a database error. So looking at that, again, so suppose someone else wants to subscribe as myself. So I can say, I'd like to subscribe as David Grove, and says, I'm sorry, someone has already subscribed to that. So then you can go and fight with that, the D Grove guy about whether or not he's supposed to be the right subscription. So I'd encourage everyone to go ahead, and if you're interested in getting the Slack notifications for PR tests, just subscribe. And go ahead and start using the service. It's enabled on the 12 repositories that are in our release process and on the Kube repository as well. And we can add it to other ones if people are, if there are other repositories we want to watch. So that's all I wanted to talk about. Any questions or comments about that? You got?
So can you say again how we subscribe? We just...
Yeah, so you go to the OpenWhisk team Slack, and there's a new Slack command. So you say subscribe, Travis, and whatever your name is you use in your Git commits. For me, it's David Grove, and capitalization doesn't matter. And once you do that, that will then fire off a message to the back end. It'll go look you up in the database and send you something back telling you whether you subscribed or not.
Should I explicitly specify my full name or only a GitHub username?
It's not the GitHub user ID. It's the name. If you do like a git log,
your Slack ID.
Yeah, okay. I see. Okay.
Just the name in front of the email in the commit author.
Right. Yeah, and I should put this on our wiki page somewhere for the Apache project. If someone wants to send me a suggestion offline of which wiki page I should add it to, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, we can add it to the wiki. You can add a new page.
Okay.
I can do it. Yeah. It is awesome. This saves me a lot of time because I submit PRs here, PRs there. The next thing I think I need is like a bot helper to help me review PRs.
Yeah. That's
this is 80%, and I'm super happy. Just happy that somebody pings me saying, hey, your Travis thing that took 20 minutes or 40 minutes is done. Good. Or it fell like 5 minutes into or 15 minutes into.
Right. Okay.
That's cool. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dave. So up next, I've got Pretty to talk about multiple project management with Whisk Deploy.
Yep, it's me.
Great.
Let me share my screen. All right, you guys see it? You guys see my screen?
Yep, we've got you.
Okay, cool. So we had few weeks or a couple of months back, we had conversation about keeping OpenWhisk project in sync between the client and server, and there was a demo as well, but I'm just going to go over it briefly before going into how to deal with multiple projects. So what happens when we have a project and we keep we change it on the client side, we add an action or we delete an action. We want to reflect those changes on the OpenWhisk server. So in Whisk deploy, we added this new functionality called sync, which basically creates a list of annotation under Whisk managed to keep track of what all entities, which project is being managed, and what is the hash of the manifest file which Whisk deploy basically uses for the deployment. So this is the structure of the annotation. It's Whisk managed, has project name, hash, and it has the file, the manifest file as well. Recently, we added this new thing, project dependencies. Now, when we have multiple projects, when we have one particular package depending on a separate package, then how can we have all these projects in sync? So let me jump onto that. This is all in, right now, this is, the documentation is in PR, but it's, the functionality is right there in Whisk deploy. So let's say so there are multiple kinds of dependencies in terms of how Whisk deploy classifies it. So here we can say that my package extension 1, it depends on some kind of library, and it's coming from GitHub. So when we deploy using this manifest, what happens is it creates an annotation in the package itself saying that there is a dependency in extension 1 depends on the package, which is Hello Worlds in this case. And the dependent package itself has this particular annotation saying that it's part of the its own project. So now, let's say I have one more dependency, but it's named different than what it is named in the package itself. My package is named Hello Whisk, but I'm naming it as something different. Then what happens is it creates a binding, and it says that I have now 2 dependencies. So basically you have n number of dependencies. It adds this list into the your main package, and it adds this annotation into. So this is all done to keep track of, on the server side, to keep track of what package and what is the dependent package to just manage, so that whenever something changes, basically those changes are reflected on the server as well. So here, now what happens is when, let's say I want to now undeploy my extension 1 using, I can undeploy it just using this command. This was recently added saying undeploy my project name. My project name was this. So I undeploy it, and then both the dependencies, the library 1 and the library 2, both the dependencies are undeployed as well. So basically it just cleans up your system. Now there's one more type of dependency. It's called package binding. So you have a catalog of packages. Let's say if with OpenWhisk, we have lots of utilities under Whisk system. You can have any namespace, any package. You can create, basically have catalog under any packages or any namespace and say, I have dependency. I'm using this particular package. Now here I'm using example of this system, but you can say that, okay, I have dependency on my library and this is the namespace. So in this case, what happens is when you deploy this package extension 3, there is no dependency as such stated, because the dependency itself, it's not in it's in the package binding. It's not, it's part of the system. So we don't want to mock with or basically change the catalog. The catalog still stays right there. So here in the package binding, it says that it's part of the extension 3 project, and this was created to bind that package so that we can use that Whisk system utils. So here, again, when I say with Whisk deploy, undeploy project name, it basically undeploys extension 3, but it doesn't change or it doesn't delete anything under Whisk system. Now, let me show you a small demo of what I'm saying. I have Whisk deploy, and I have this small extension 1. I have this particular, okay, I'm basically dependent on this particular package in the GitHub. So I don't have anything in my on my server right now, and I say that now sync my project, which is under 06. So basically it gets all the dependencies, whatever the dependency packages and everything, and deploys it here. So I have now hello worlds here, and then my extension 1. So I say that, and here is the dependency. So now I say, okay, now deploy one more package, which is extension 2. It's dependent on the previous package dependency. And then again, here it has the more dependencies. So it basically just deploys this. So I have now extension 1 and extension 2. And if I say extension 1, it has, extension 2, it has 2 dependencies. So now when I'm syncing, let's say I just want to see what all entities are going to be deployed, I can just run a preview mode. It doesn't deploy anything, but it tells me exactly what is being deployed. And let's say now.
And preview mode is new as well. So that's.
Yeah. Now let's say if I want to undeploy this particular package, the extension 2, I say Whisk deploy, undeploy, project name, and I want to preview it before undeploying. So it tells me that it's going to undeploy this package and then this particular extension 2 and the binding as well. So now I go ahead and literally undeploy it, and I have only extension 1 now. So let's say now if I want to go ahead and I have dependency on something from the catalog. So I say whisk deploy sync. So here, let's see what happens. So let me undeploy my 6. So it's saying that it's going to be deploying extension 3. It has dependency on Whisk utility, and I mean the Whisk utils. So let me undeploy this first.
Yeah, how are we doing on time, Dan?
You have 15 minutes, and there's really just one more topic, unless people have more, but I don't see any in chat.
So here, just, yeah, I'll just take 2 more minutes and it should be done. So here in the extension 3, it says there's no dependency because it's basically a part of catalog. Now let's undeploy. Extension 3. Okay. So I have basically nothing left on the. So this was undeploying using this project name -- project name, something Carlos suggested, and we added that, and also the preview mode. And we had use cases from Watson Edge team for these kind of dependency management, and it's now part of Whisk deploy. So that's it. Any questions?
And there should be, I think that the team that submitted a PR, and we debated in that PR their proposal and the code they submitted, and we came up with an agreement, and pretty implemented the agreement, and they're going to submit some more use cases for us too. So.
Yeah, I'll take a look. There might be minor things, but we can discuss it offline, like the specification of that Git repo. Someone can specify a branch or folder with that Git repo, or SSH or HTTPS used and such. That's the only thing I have so far.
Yep.
Just one query around, not actually related to this, but in terms of deploy, if there's a partial failure, or if, let's say, if action is being updated and there's a partial failure where let's say, one part got completed but the attachment did not got attached, or some of the rules did not get attached as part of the package deploy, what would be the system state?
So right now it leaves in just where where it sees the failure. So it's not stable. It's basically partial deployed. But we have an issue opened and we are working on it to basically say force either basically clean it up. Do not leave any partial deployed entities.
Okay, but if I'm updating something,
that is a lie.
Means it would get removed, right? So what I'm coming to do, are we going to think of something like a published gesture where you do all those things in multiple steps, but then finally we have something publish, which?
Yeah, there's no staging plan, if that's what you're talking about.
Okay, there's no staging plan.
I think the staging story right now, I mean, like keep people don't know, but the story is like use two namespaces, right? You create a namespace.
Yeah, test
staging blue and red, blue-green deployment, staging, dev prod. But yeah, like go don't go naked on a live production. I think that's where we stand. I mean, not saying that that's perfect, but I think that for now that's the story, and I guess we can investigate how to improve the scenario. Partial things not deploying or verifying, or a verifying step at the end.
But I will point out that Vincent added after we had issues earlier, we do retries. Everything you do, we have full error warning trace available, so we tell you everything you know from the APIs as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll move on. Thanks very much, Pretty. Appreciate it. The last sort of update from the community on the agenda is from James, a discussion about the install documentation. James, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, so can you open the ticket down and share, or do you want me to do that?
Yeah, I can go ahead and open it. Just give me a sec.
So this ticket was opened today by Roderick based on some comments in the OpenWhisk Slack from Rob Allen, who's not here at the moment. Just talking about some feedback he's had from users about the difficulty getting OpenWhisk installed. And this is something I think many of us have heard. I've definitely heard it, where OpenWhisk has grown to have multiple ways to install it, right? From Docker, Compose, Kubernetes, Mesos, VMs, all this kind of wonderful stuff, which is incredibly useful. But the documentation hasn't really kept up with that. So if you go to the main OpenWhisk repo, it kind of pushes you towards the VM, and lots of people don't realize we already have all of these wonderful options. So I've definitely heard people say, oh, I didn't know OpenWhisk supported Kubernetes, and we do, and it's something we need to talk about more. I think this is also unfortunately not helped by the Apache GitHub organization thing, because our repos are in the Apache org. It's much more difficult to see just which is the OpenWhisk stuff, and obviously there's nothing we can really do about that. So I think Roderick's opened a ticket to talk about just having some kind of install.markdown, maybe rewriting bits of the main README to make it much easier for users to understand the different ways to get OpenWhisk installed, some of the benefits versus disadvantages of using one way over the other, and to just collect everything centrally. So yeah, it's definitely something I think user experience wise, making it easier to run the project is now we have all these wonderful ways. Just making it clearer for users will definitely make it easier for people. And and again, it kind of feeds in a bit to some of the discussion people have been having around the website, where the website is a kind of, at the moment, much of a marketing kind of splash page that was created when the project was launched on Apache. It doesn't really give you any instructions about, okay, so if you went to the website and you're like, I want to start OpenWhisk, what's the best way? So yeah, Roderick's opened this ticket, and we can kind of all collaborate on that and make it much, much easier. And hopefully then we'd somehow incorporate this back into the main README. So it'd be very straightforward for a user when they went to the project of how to get set up. And I guess there's a broader discussion around like what is the preferred way for users to start it if they want to get started fast. Like I think the Docker Compose is for me the best and easiest way. It's like 60 seconds, really quick. The Vagrant obviously does the full build and takes a lot longer and feels heavyweight, but you don't need anything. It doesn't leave anything dangling. I've been doing some stuff with Kubernetes recently. That was, that takes a little while, but obviously that's a very popular option for people. So yeah, so at the moment, everything's kind of spread out all over the internet and GitHub, and yeah, having some more like single source of truth for users is going to be important for us to gain users. So
I think the website's the doing things that README makes sense because people find that. I think, but the website is, we all agree, is what needs to be attacked. And I think that once the release process is done, my team can shift resources to doing that. We need to
I wonder if there's anything we could. I mean, that would be fantastic. I wonder if whether we if there's any way to like also generate the website from some of the markdown docs, so then it makes it much easier for us to maintain. So that would be something to investigate, because obviously if they're separate, it's doubly hard to
there's issues already for that in the website repo. I thought I created one, or maybe I just ran it in Slack and it didn't create a repo, an issue in the website's repo to create. I mean, you're sharing. Go ahead and go to the website so people are on the same page of what they get. So I think I got it a few weeks ago through Twitter, and it was a eye opener, right? That you go to this website and you scroll and you're trying to find the install button or the getting started or why would I care, and we don't see it. So this is a good website, but I think it needs some improvement.
I think we said Apache. We want to do it with Apache Spark as our model. Flat up, get the developer to the resources quickly, get them started quickly, and
so one thing that was kind of highlighted was we know this stuff in and out. There's even more basic things when people go to the website. Some folks were asking if they have to install it. Like, why would they need to install it? Like, the person wasn't an operations person. It wasn't a person that wanted to deploy OpenWhisk. They just wanted to learn, like, what is OpenWhisk and what will be a quick way of trying it out, right? So maybe things like, now we have Adobe I/O, maybe we have IBM Functions, maybe those users just try it there. We also have the emulator type of thing. So there's different type of users. Also, the installation guidelines, I think Minishift and OpenShift have that, but we have also Windows users. Like, the Vagrant is for basically Windows users. They cannot use Docker Compose.
Dan or Chetan, do you guys, I mean, does Adobe have a general purpose place to test functions, or is it all just part of Adobe I/O?
It's all part of.
Yeah, it's going to be part of Adobe I/O, but I was just going to say I totally agree that there's different types of users. We've had that confusion before where I'm a user, I just want to get the Whisk client and you tell me how to configure it, and then I just want to write some functions. And then mostly what we've been talking about with the 5 different types of installations is people who want to run it locally. That's another type of user. And then there's the other type of user, which is I want to run it and I want to hack it and, do some development locally also.
For scale, right? Just buy 3 Digital Oceans VMs and then let me set up OpenWhisk with my carlos.com, right? Just simple. The other one is there's also users that just want to debug locally. Like I like to just debug locally and using something like VS Code and a local debugger in Node.js. So in the DevTools, we have local Java and local Node.js. So also investing in those type of scenarios where, like, I just want to test my little function locally. I don't have to run OpenWhisk. I just want to Docker run Node.js and run the thing, Docker run Java and run the thing, Docker run Swift and run the thing locally. Just enough confidence to send it to the cloud or send it to my carlos.com in DigitalOcean, right? So I think it's, but the website is the key. I think people were going to the website and like they don't know where to go from there. On having direction, like if statement or FAQ, like if you want to do this, go this path. If you want to do this path, and like maybe four areas of where to go to from there. And it could be just go to this install.md in here, or rendering this install.md back to the website, like James was saying as HTML. It's Jekyll, so it should be super easy.
I know someone threw out Spark as a model, but I've actually really liked the Kubernetes docs. If you've never looked at them, I seriously recommend them. I think they're really, really good. How they basically say, like, literally they walk through exactly what Tyson just said. Like, oh, I'm an application developer. This is what I want to do.
Role-based, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
This is really good. Their docs are really, really great.
May I ask one thing? Just to know, there are options to install in AWS, because I'm trying to understand what is the best way to do that, because I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are interested in a quick and easy way to get it running in AWS because they don't want to use Lambda. because Lambda is perceived as a proprietary. That's the problem. So I was looking if there is an easy way, and so far the only thing I have seen is to install it in Kubernetes. That, by the way, in AWS is not supported greatly. You have to install it separately. It's pretty complicated and so on. So I was looking for an option to fight quickly and easily on AWS.
Easy too.
That is missing, in my opinion. What do you think?
I guess just as Carlos said, EC2. I mean, you probably have a couple of ways, but you could deploy it as a VM. I know I've heard about people doing this before, but I don't know if we have like a recipe or something with like CloudFormation or something to be able to like one-click deploy it. That would be a good thing to have.
We had an Amazon deployment from Pure VMs, but that was kind of no one was supporting it, so I think we got rid of it.
So could be useful a way to install it in AWS, or just we do better to stick with the Kubernetes way?
I think that the reality is that we're running against container frameworks for the most part, Mesos and Kubernetes, and they share some things. We just need somebody, if there's a VM approach, we need to do somebody to support it, perhaps in another repo or something like another deployment. It just needs support. The stuff from Amazon worked, it just fell out of support, and so we couldn't leave it in the repo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we did get a pull request 2915. You might want to take a look at that. I think, as we update the install docs, we could have sections, one-click deployment to Google Cloud, one-click deployment to Amazon, and could sort of go to addressing your concerns. I do think there's value there. And, if you want to bypass Kubernetes, this is an option. We do have the logic for that deployment, just requires that they don't rot. I think that's the concern.
Yeah, just setting the VMs with the host, the SSH keys, and then.
And something like an Helm deployment for Kubernetes could be of interest. Because Helm is the package manager for Kubernetes, and so I have seen that it's the installer for Kubernetes, but I think that should be really an Helm script. I
thought we were moving in the direction that had some Helm scripts.
Helm
repo. Helm script, Helm in the Cube repo has already, doesn't it? Dave?
Yeah, we don't have Helm scripts in there currently. I mean, there was a project to have Helm scripts. It's gotten a little bit out of date.
Yeah, I think I saw a blog post. Someone did it for Helm.
Right.
And I know people on our China research team did it initially, and so.
Right. I mean, we're basically I don't know if Jeremiah is on and wants to comment. We've been doing a lot of work internally on deploying different configurations of Kubernetes on different size clusters and getting that into a CI/CD framework. And I think we're very close to being able to push some of that back out. But right now, it's not there.
Okay. With the Travis matrix, we should be able to have in the core repo. If I understand correctly, if you do a matrix, each matrix section should give you 50 minutes, so we can have in parallel a kube deployment and Ansible deployment. Maybe we can have an Ubuntu one. So this stuff doesn't rot. That's the problem. Like, we get it fixed this week. Next week, somebody opens an issue or a Slack like, hey, this stuff is not working, and then everybody looks the other way around. Like, I don't know, it worked last week.
Yeah.
So who's going to like spend time now to see why it doesn't work? So I want Travis to be the one telling us that.
Okay. Well, great. We're actually at the top of the hour, and we only have one other thing, which is Ed, do we have any volunteers for a new moderator for the next session?
Oh, I have an announcement for that.
Oh,
I forgot. I think I saw it on Twitter. I saw it in the mailing list. That Apache Con is in September, Montreal, and the CFP is open until this week, or maybe it was closed last week, but they're giving like one more grace period. So if you guys have anything around Apache, OpenWhisk, it could be just doing the Apache way, or maybe how we collaborate, or how do you use the Apache software in your company. anything interesting, go ahead and submit a CFP. It would be good to have some people there, and then we can do like a birds of feathers if enough people go. I haven't submitted, so that I'm like always procrastinating to the last minute. But I'll submit something. Probably something around it's September, which should be already released, maybe around that. I don't know if anyone else have submitted already, so I don't take your idea. No, okay. That's it. Sorry for the interruption, but yeah, moderator for next week.
Any volunteers?
Wants to.
Half the people have logged already.
Pretty bailed. I saw the participants drop off.
It will be for the 11th, right?
April 11th. Yeah. Can somebody volunteer, please? Gabe?
I can volunteer, but we can't find a new user.
Dave or Jeremiah, have you guys moderated yet?
I haven't, but I'm on vacation on the 11th. It's the school break for us, so catch me after that.
I know Jeremiah, you may have delegated at one point, but are you available on April 11th? Maybe you want to do it. Jeremiah, maybe he's not really there.
I think Jeremiah is going to take some paternity leave soon, so it may not be available.
Olivier, Chetan. I'm just going through the list of people who I know who haven't done it properly.
Yeah.
Chetan, you want to do it?
I can do it after the next time. I mean, after the attachment is to work.
You'll do the following one, the end of April.
The following one. Yeah.
Okay. So James, you want to do it one more time and?
Yeah, that's I could do that. I'll put it in my calendar. The 11th, right? That's good.
Yeah. Thanks, James. Appreciate it. And I'll make a note for Chetan for the following one.
Great. All right, everybody. Well, thanks very much for attending, and see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.